He only meant to brush past her, a casual apology. But when their skin touched, it felt like gravity collapsed and rebuilt around her, around them both. He didn't even know her name. Not yet. Not when his fingers grazed hers in the bookstore aisle, reaching for the same worn copy of the bell jar. Her skin was cool like rain on a sunburn, and his body reacted before his brain did. He froze, blinked, felt something shift so violently in his chest he nearly dropped the book. She looked up, big eyes, storm-colored, mouth parted like she just remembered a dream she wasn't supposed to. Her breath hitched. That half-second held enough electricity to power every neon sign in New York. He let go first. "Sorry," he muttered, taking a small step back. But she didn't move. She just looked at him, as if she saw too much, as if he'd just become real in front of her, and something in him needed to speak again, to break that stare, or maybe stay in it forever. "You can have it," he said, nodding at the book. Her voice was soft, barely above the whisper of worn pages. "You take it." "No, really." He tried to smile. "Looks like you need Sylvia more than I do." She glanced down, then back up. Her lips curled into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "You have no idea." He didn't ask. He should have. Instead, he watched her walk to the register, the book pressed against her chest like armor. When she left, the air in the store felt hollow, like she'd taken something invisible with her, and he thought that was the end of it. At WAS in single quotes. 3 days later, he saw her again. Same woman, same silence, but this time it was raining, and she was standing barefoot on the steps of his apartment building, mascara smudged, arms wrapped tight around herself like the world had collapsed, and she'd been left standing in the ruins. "Are you okay?" he asked before he even knew what floor he was on. She didn't speak. She just stared like she'd been looking for him. He moved to open the door. "Do you live here?" She stepped past him, as if the answer didn't matter, as if she belonged anywhere he was. He followed her up to the roof. Neither of them said a word. Up there, the city lights bled into the storm, and she stood with her back to him, shoulders trembling. He should have walked away, but he didn't. "I remember you," he said, the words tasting strange in the air. "The bookstore." She turned. Water streamed down her face like tears, but it wasn't sadness in her eyes. It was something else. Hunger, ache, recognition. "I remember your hands," she said. "They were warm." His throat went dry. Then she did something that shattered his reason, something no stranger should ever do. She reached out, touched his wrist, and his whole body lit up. It wasn't sexual, not yet. It was deeper, more dangerous. Like her touch went into him, like she was writing her name on his bones, and he had no defense against it. "Come with me," she whispered. He didn't ask where. They ended up in her apartment, an old loft that smelled like wet wood, wine, and ghosted memories. She didn't offer a drink, didn't make excuses. She just sat on the floor, legs folded, hair soaked, looking at him like he was the only thing holding her together. "I don't even know your name," he said. She smiled faintly. "Good." He frowned. "What are we doing here?" She reached into a drawer beside the bed, pulled out the book, the bell jar, and held it out. He took it, opened it, Inside the front cover was a scribbled name, Leah. His heartbeat stumbled. Leah. She nodded slowly. I haven't let anyone in for a long time. His voice softened. Why now? Her answer was a whisper. Because you touched me like you didn't mean to, but something in me wanted you to. That night, they didn't sleep together. They didn't need to. She rested her head on his chest. His fingers traced her spine. There was heat between them, undeniable. But there was also something heavier. Like they were both waiting for the other to break first. As dawn cracked through the windows, she whispered something he wasn't ready for. If you leave tomorrow, I won't stop you. But if you stay, don't ever touch me like that again unless you're ready to mean it. He didn't answer. Not yet. Because part of him already knew the truth. He'd touched her once. Now, he couldn't let go. He told himself it was just a moment. One night. A strange connection wrapped in rain and poetry. But by morning, she was under his skin like breath, and she wasn't leaving. Leah slept with her back to him, breathing slow and shallow. He hadn't left the floor all night. Not because he couldn't, but because something about her silence made him afraid to move. It wasn't just attraction. It was gravity. The kind that pulls oceans. Tears. Decisions. He watched her for too long. Every curve of her body was painted in gold by the soft morning light, vulnerable, yet untouchable. And he knew, deep down, if he touched her again, it wouldn't be by accident. It would be choice. And choice meant consequence. When she finally stirred, she didn't look at him. She rose slowly, wrapping a blanket around her like armor. Her bare feet padded across the floor toward the window, where she stared out at the gray skyline like she was waiting for something to disappear. He stood quietly. You hungry? He asked, as if normal words could undo the chaos inside them. She didn't turn. Do you regret coming here? No. A beat of silence. But you're scared, she said flatly. Yes. This time, she did look back, and the way she looked at him, it wasn't angry. It wasn't even surprised. It was worse. It was knowing. I told you not to touch me like that unless you meant it. I didn't know I did. He said. Not until I couldn't forget. Leah crossed the room slowly, the blanket slipping down her shoulder. Her voice was barely a whisper. Do you still feel it? He didn't speak. He just stepped closer. Then he did what he swore he wouldn't. He touched her again. Fingertips brushed her cheek. Her eyes fluttered shut like the sensation was too much. And then he kissed her. It wasn't soft. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate. Her hands clutched at his shirt. His arms wrapped around her waist like, if he let go, the world would split apart. And somewhere between breaths and moans, they weren't strangers anymore. They were fire and fever, pressed chest to chest, gasping each other's names like promises they couldn't keep. Afterward, they didn't speak. She lay curled beside him, the sheet tangled between them like a boundary neither wanted to acknowledge. Her fingers rested just barely on his, as if she wanted to hold him, but couldn't bring herself to ask. He studied the ceiling like it held answers. And maybe it did. Maybe every crack in the plaster mirrored one in his ribs. Do you do this often? He asked softly. Bring strangers home, she laughed. But there was no warmth in it. Do you think I'm that easy to forget? No, he said immediately. That's the problem. She turned, propped up on one elbow. Her eyes were darker now, stormier. Then stop pretending this was casual. I'm not. Then stop trying to make it logical. He stared at her. What is this? Her voice dropped low. It's a mistake we'll make again. And damn her, she was right. Because when her fingers trailed over his stomach, slow and deliberate, he didn't pull away. When her lips brushed his collarbone, he didn't stop her. When her breath hitched in his ear, and she whispered, I want more, he gave it to her without question. Days passed like a dream. They stayed in her loft, barely coming up for air. They talked at 2 a.m. with fingers laced and skin bare, about books and broken hearts, and how silence could sometimes feel safer than love. He told her about his ex, how she left after 3 years with a text message and a shadow in the shape of her perfume. She told him about her brother, how he drowned when she was 17, how her family never touched water. Again, they didn't say the word love. Not once. And it hung there, in the space between their bodies, in the way they moved like magnets drawn across invisible fault lines. He watched her sleep and thought, I'm all ready to forgone. One night, she woke from a nightmare, sweat-soaked, shaking, gasping. He reached for her instinctively, but she shoved him away. I'm fine, she hissed, curling up against the wall. He stood there, heart hammering. You're not, he whispered. She wouldn't look at him. You said not to touch you unless I meant it, he said. But I do. I mean it, Leah. I don't know what this is, but I can't let go of it. Her voice cracked. That's exactly why you should. He stepped closer. Why? Because everything I touch breaks. He cupped her face. Then, break me. Her tears fell freely now. She didn't kiss him this time. She held him. And for the first time since they met, he felt her body relax in his arms. Like maybe she believed he wouldn't run. Not tonight. Not tomorrow. Maybe not ever. The first time he left her apartment, it felt like betrayal. Not because he didn't want to stay, but because he did. Too much. And she saw it in his eyes. That dangerous word neither of them dared to speak. Need. He promised he'd come back. He kissed her slow, like he wanted to memorize the taste of her lips, the scent of her skin, the sound she made when his hand slid through her hair just right. Then he whispered her name like it was a confession and closed the door behind him. Leah didn't follow. She didn't say, don't go. She just watched the door, silently, and waited to see if he would break his own promise. The city felt louder. After her, every car horn, every stranger's glance, every shaft of light between buildings, it all felt wrong without her. He walked to the corner store for coffee and protein bars. But when he passed the bookstore where they met, he stopped. His fingers reached out to the dusty glass like he expected her reflection to appear beside him. It did in single quotes T. Instead. The memory of her touch burned in his palm. The way she curled into him like a storm hiding from itself. The way she whispered nothing but his name, like that alone anchored her to the earth. She haunted him, and he'd barely known her a week. When he returned later that evening, she was gone. The loft was dark. No note, no text, nothing. The bed still smelled like her skin. The floor still creaked where she'd paced barefoot in the night. But she wasn't there. His heart kicked against his ribs like it wanted out. He waited an hour. Nothing. He tried to tell himself not to panic. But panic bloomed anyway, fast and merciless, curling into his lungs like smoke. He left her apartment and walked the streets like a man possessed, calling her name in his head because he didn't know who else to pray to. He found her in a place that didn't look like her at all. A dive bar, dark, loud, crowded, everything she avoided. She sat alone at the end of the bar, a half-empty glass of whiskey in front of her. Her eyes were red, but dry. Her fingers tapped against the rim like she was holding something back or trying to drown it. He didn't say her name. He didn't need to. She felt him the second he stepped in the room. Her shoulders tensed, her spine straightened. She didn't turn, but she whispered, "You shouldn't have come." He slid onto the stool beside her. "And yet, I did." She looked at him then, eyes darker than he remembered, lips trembling. "I warned you," she said. "You did," he replied. "But you didn't tell me why." She closed her eyes. "Because if I give you everything, I won't survive it when you leave." His voice dropped. "Who said I'm leaving?" "You will," she whispered. "Everyone does. When they see all of me." He reached for her hand, but she pulled back. "Leah," he said gently, "don't you get it? I already saw you. That night. In the storm. You weren't trying to hide then." "That's because I didn't care if I broke." His jaw clenched. "You think I'm here because I want easy." "No," she said bitterly. "You're here because you touched me once. And now you're addicted to the idea of saving me." He stiffened. But she wasn't finished. "You don't know what it's like to be touched for the wrong reasons. To be wanted only when you're falling apart. I've been someone's project before. I won't be that again." He swallowed hard. Then, he reached into his jacket, pulled out something small, and slid it in front of her. A worn copy of the bell jar. Her copy. The one she gave him the night they met. Her breath caught in her throat. "I didn't come here to save you, Leah," he said quietly. "I came here to remind you who the hell you were before they made you forget." She stared at the book, at him, at herself, and slowly her hand found his. That night, back at her apartment, they didn't undress each other like lovers. They peeled each other open like wounds that needed light. He kissed every scar like it was scripture. She whispered every fear like it was a prayer. And when their bodies finally joined, it wasn't wild or frenzied, it was aching, slow, deep. His hands gripped her hips like she was something sacred. Her lips trembled against his neck as she whispered, "Don't let go." He didn't. Even after the climax. Even after her body went still and her breathing slowed. He held her through the night like he was afraid she'd vanish. Because maybe she would. Maybe love didn't mean safety. Maybe it meant choosing someone. Again and again, even when you didn't know what tomorrow would look like. And as the city slept outside, he kissed her shoulder and whispered, "Break me all you want. Just don't disappear." He used to believe passion burned brightest in the beginning, that the first touch, the first kiss, the first night was where the fire lived. But Leah taught him something terrifying. The deeper you fall, the hotter it gets. And this was wildfire. They didn't leave her apartment for 3 days. Not out of fear, not to hide, but because when their bodies touched, the world outside felt smaller, irrelevant. Like a whisper behind a closed door neither of them wanted to open. They made love in shadows and sunlight. On the floor, the counter, the bed. Sometimes fast, desperate. Other times so slow it felt like time stopped for them. But it wasn't just sex, it was communion. Every kiss was a question. Every gasp an answer. Every time he said her name, it felt like a vow. And every time she pulled away afterward, it was like she was mourning something before it even died. On the fourth morning, she wasn't in the bed. He found her on the fire escape, barefoot, legs tucked to her chest, smoking a cigarette she didn't finish. Her eyes were somewhere far away, years behind her. Maybe. He wondered if they were filled with memories that wouldn't let her sleep. Couldn't stay in bed. He asked gently, rubbing sleep from his eyes. She didn't look at him. I didn't want you to wake up and realize I wasn't worth the fire. He exhaled slowly, sitting beside her. Leah, I'm already burning. She blinked, laughed once. Bitter. Beautiful. Then you're worse off than I thought. Later that day, while he showered, her phone buzzed. Again and again, same number. He didn't mean to look, but the name that flashed sent something sharp crawling down his spine. Marcus. He'd never asked about other men. She'd never offered. Their love had bloomed in the present like it didn't need history. But now history was knocking and she was letting it ring. When he stepped out, towels slung low, water still dripping down his chest, she was staring at the screen like it might explode. Who is he? He asked quietly. She looked up, and just like that the air in the room changed. Colder, tighter, like an invisible thread had just snapped. She didn't lie, but her silence screamed enough. An ex? He asked. She nodded, slowly. The one who taught me what not to trust. He swallowed hard. Is that why you ran that night? When I left, her voice cracked. Yes, because you were the first man who didn't look at me like I was broken. And I didn't know what to do with that. That night, they argued. Not loud, not cruel, but raw. Real. He told her he needed to know what she wanted. She told him she didn't trust herself to want anything that lasted. I've burned bridges with men who swore they loved me, she said. And every time, I watched them walk away while I stood there smelling like smoke. You think I'll leave? He asked. No, she whispered. I think I'll push you hard enough until you do. He stepped toward her, eyes locked. I'm still here. For now, I'm not him. I know. That's what scares me. She pulled away that night. Not physically. Emotionally. Her kisses were quieter, her body more distant. But he still touched her like nothing had changed. Like she hadn't started building walls again beneath her skin. Like he could love the fight right out of her bones. When he whispered, I'm not going anywhere, she cried in silence. Because she wanted to believe him. She really did. The next day, she was gone. The sheets were still warm. Her scent still lingered on his pillow. But her clothes were missing from the chair. And the note lay folded on the nightstand. One sentence, scrawled messy, broken handwriting. Some love isn't meant to stay. Don't chase me. He read it 5 times. Then 6. Then he crumpled it and slammed his fist into the doorframe so hard his knuckles bled. She had run, not because she didn't care, but because she cared too much. Because some people are taught to leave before they're left, to disappear before they become someone else's burden, to walk away with the memory of tenderness before it turns to resentment. But he didn't care about any of that. All he knew was he touched her once. Now he couldn't breathe without her. 3 days. That's how long she was gone before he stopped pretending he could live without her. Before he realized that chasing her wasn't weakness, it was survival. Love like this wasn't neat. It didn't come with rules or guarantees. It just happened, and he refused to let go. So he didn't either. He started at the bookstore, the same dusty aisle, the same torn copy of the bell jar, and for a moment, he imagined her standing there again, looking up at him with those storm gray eyes, asking nothing, giving everything, but she wasn't there. So he dug deeper. He called every number she'd saved in his phone, even the ones that didn't have names. Friends, maybe family. He wasn't sure. Most didn't answer. One finally did. A woman, older, clipped voice, suspicious. Leah. He asked. A pause, then a sigh. She's at the lake house. He blinked. What lake house? Another pause. Then the woman said, upstate. Family property. She goes there when she's scared. He didn't ask how she knew. He just said thank you, hung up, and packed a bag. The cabin was silent, the kind of silence that presses against your chest like grief. Trees swayed above him. A cold wind slipped through the pines. And on the porch, Leah sat with her knees pulled to her chest, staring at the water like she was waiting for it to swallow her whole. She didn't look surprised when he stepped into view. She didn't run. She just closed her eyes, like part of her had known he'd come. I told you not to chase me, she whispered. He dropped his bag beside her feet. Too bad. She looked up, eyes rimmed red. I didn't leave because I stopped feeling anything. I know. I left because I felt too much. I know that too. Her voice trembled. You made me believe I could be touched without falling apart, and that scared the hell out of me. He stepped closer, knelt beside her, and took her hand, soft, slow, reverent. You didn't fall apart, Leah, he said. You fell open. They didn't speak for a long time after that. The lake shimmered in the fading light. She rested her forehead against his. His thumb traced circles on her wrist, and the world, for just one moment, stopped spinning. Then she said the one word neither of them had dared to say until now. Stay. His eyes searched hers. Even if you break again, she nodded. Especially then, that night, they didn't undress each other like lovers. They peeled each other open like souls desperate for truth. In the quiet of the cabin, beneath the weight of everything unsaid, they came together not for escape, but for surrender. His mouth traced the lines of her past, every scar, every shadow, every inch she once tried to hide. Her hands clutched at him like she was drowning in forgiveness. There were no promises, no declarations, just breath, touch, and the echo of everything they never needed words for. And when she fell asleep wrapped around him, tears still wet on her cheeks, he whispered into her hair, I'm not letting go, not now, not ever. In the morning, he woke before her, watched the light spill across her bare shoulders, listened to her heartbeat against his chest. And for the first time since the day they met, He felt still. Hold. Loved. Not in spite of her damage, but because of it. She stirred, eyes fluttering open. Did you mean it? She asked, every word. She reached up and touched his jaw soft, like she was scared he'd vanish. I don't know how to be someone's forever, she whispered. Then let's just be today, he said, and figure out the rest tomorrow. Her lips curved into something real. And then, just like that, she kissed him, slow, certain, like she'd finally chosen to believe the love she never thought she deserved. They weren't perfect. They weren't easy. But they were real. And sometimes that was more than enough. Because some touches change your skin, others change your soul. And when he touched her that first time, he never let go.